everyone, and welcome back to ELLHUB. Get ready for a quick and exciting dive into the world of adjectives with a twist. Today, we're focusing on comparative adjectives, those special words that help us compare and contrast things around us. But before we talk about comparatives, let's first review what adjectives are. Adjectives are words that modify or describe nouns or pronouns. In green apple, green is an adjective describing the color of the apple. A beautiful girl. In this phrase, beautiful is the adjective that describes the girl and gives more information about her appearance. They are happy. Happy is the adjective modifying the pronoun they, describing their emotional state. Adjectives are used to describe nouns or pronouns and can be in one of three forms: positive, comparative, and superlative. The positive form describes something without comparing it. For example, the cat is fluffy. She has a blue dress. The book is interesting. The water is cold. They have a big house. The car is shiny. Comparative adjectives. We use comparative adjectives to compare two nouns, like people, places, things, or ideas. When comparing the speed of a cheetah to that of a turtle using the adjective fast, we would say a cheetah is faster than a turtle. To illustrate the difference in size using the adjective large, we can say, a mansion is larger than a cottage. When comparing weight and using the adjective heavy, the appropriate statement would be, a blue whale is heavier than an elephant. To describe the level of luxury, with the adjective luxurious, we might express it as, a cruise ship is more luxurious than a sailboat. Rules for forming comparative adjectives. For most one-syllable adjectives, add er to the adjective. For example, clean becomes cleaner. Cold becomes colder. Smart becomes smarter. For one-syllable adjectives ending in e, just add r. For example, nice becomes nicer. Safe becomes safer. And large becomes larger. For one-syllable adjectives that end with a consonant, followed by a vowel, and then another consonant, CVC, double the final consonant before adding er. For example, big becomes bigger. Hot becomes hotter. Thin becomes thinner. For most two-syllable adjectives not ending in y, use more or less before the adjective to form the comparative. For example, the comparative form of careful is more careful or less careful. Modern becomes more modern or less modern. And the comparative form of honest is more honest or less honest. For two-syllable adjectives ending in y, change the y to I and add er. For example, easy becomes easier. Noisy becomes noisier. And crazy becomes crazier. Some two-syllable adjectives in English can be a bit flexible when forming comparatives, particularly those that do not end in y. These adjectives often include those ending in er, le, or ow. You can choose between two options to create the comparative form, adding er or using more or less. For example, clever can become cleverer or more clever, and narrow can be narrower or more narrow. The choice between er and more often depends on which form is more commonly used or sounds more natural in everyday language. For instance, simpler is used more frequently than more simple. Now, let's move on to 3 or more syllable adjectives. For adjectives with 3 or more syllables, use more or less before the adjective to form the comparative. For example, convenient becomes more convenient or less convenient. Expensive becomes more expensive or less expensive. When comparing two things with the same adjective, use then after the adjective to introduce the second thing being compared. For example, dogs are smarter than cats. Orange juice is healthier than Coke. A car is more expensive than a bike. Mountains are higher than hills. So, we just learned how most adjectives change to show comparison by adding er or using more or less. But English has some special adjectives that don't follow these rules. These are called irregular comparative adjectives. They change in their own unique way. Let's take a look at some of these special adjectives. One common one is good, which becomes better in the comparative form. For example, vanilla cake is good, but chocolate cake is better. Her singing sounds much better than before. Another example is bad, which becomes worse. For example, the traffic was bad yesterday, but today it's worse. The movie was worse than the book. Far also follows this pattern, changing to farther or further depending on the context. For example, the park is far, but the beach is farther. She walked further than I did. These irregular comparatives can be a bit tricky, so it's important to memorize them to use them correctly in English. Now let's practice comparative adjectives. How would you describe the taste of apples compared to lemons? Use the adjective sweet in your sentence. Apples are sweeter than lemons. How would you describe the temperature difference between summer and spring? Use the adjective hot to compare them. Summer is hotter than spring. How would you describe the height difference between a skyscraper and a house? Use the adjective high in your sentence. A skyscraper is higher than a house. How would you describe the cost difference between a laptop and a paper notebook? Use the word expensive in your sentence. A laptop is more expensive than a notebook. That's it for today. Keep practicing and see you in the next lesson.